you can't stop yourself from being offended. That's, you know, if I came in here and said like, why did you put books here? Why did you? It's kind of a lame studio. You can't help yourself from being like, well, I spent a lot of time on this studio. Okay, let me listen. Let me open myself. Let me, So I've tried to take that process, getting it from 2 years into 3 seconds.
Welcome back to the School of Greatness podcast. We've got the legendary Topher Grace in the house, man. Good to see you, brother.
So good to see you, man.
Doing well?
Yeah, really well. And I'm sure you're about to say this, but we had an incredible experience together. So It's good to see you post that experience.
Yes, we had an amazing journey, an adventure, a minor adventure.
Not a big adventure.
A minor adventure.
Minor adventure, yeah.
Topher's got a new podcast out called Minor Adventures. And that's what it's called, right? Minor Adventures.
Yeah. And
but you created a magical experience for people.
Well, I don't know if this is what you want to go into right off the bat, but I didn't know you then.
Yeah, we just met like 2 minutes before we did this.
It was like going on
interview.
some date or something, and you'd been...
Sim asked me to do this thing. He's like, hey, I'm launching this new thing. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Right? It could be like the most incredible thing or a bust.
And boy, did it work. Do you know Matt Nathanson is covering that song?
Wait a minute, what?
Yeah. Okay. So every episode...
tell them what happened.
Every episode, we'd only done it twice before when you came on, and I was so thrilled to have you, knowing of you, but not knowing you. That's kind of one of the fun things about having a podcast. And every guest who comes in, like you, has no idea what they're going to do. I mean, you can vouch for that. You had no idea what you're going to do that day. I know you didn't, because the look on your face when we announced what we were going to do was kind of like, what? So we talked for about 10 minutes, and then Sim announces what adventure we're going to do, and it's been, we hooked someone up to a lie detector test, we did Reiki, we did telemarketing on one of them. It was hilarious.
Wow. You made phone calls, like
we just did beatboxing with Chrissy Metz. It was like, as we try to pair people with things you might not think about, and with you, we got the best pop songwriter in the world. She's written for like Beyonce and a lot of great artists, and she came in and we wrote a song, and it was bad at first.
And then she made it good.
And then she made it good. You helped. I mean, actually, you came up with what the whole song was kind of going to be about.
The hook.
And then there was this moment. I just heard it, so like you're at a disadvantage because you haven't heard it yet. But she, we found it right in the. It was like this magical moment where all of a sudden it was a real song, and then they liked it so much that they had Matt Nathanson, who I'm a huge fan of. I can't believe you haven't heard it yet. I should have brought it on the show.
Who is this guy?
Matt Nathanson is a pop song singer and writer.
I'm sure I've heard his stuff.
Oh, you've heard his stuff. Yeah. I mean, due to rights issues, I'm sure I can't sing it right now. But soon you'll know his #1 hit single.
What's the name of it?
Wait, I gotta remember it. Even If I Fall.
Even If I Fall.
Which sounds like a Lewis Howes title for a song.
There you go.
But you
I
really
remember
were
this,
so
actually.
game.
Even If I Fall, we were talking about like overcoming challenges and adversity in your life. And
well, first you and I were talking about it, and then when she came in the room, she wanted something that was personal, and so we kind of referenced what we had been talking about.
Yeah.
And then I just heard it. Like there's a moment where you kind of come up with a really important part of it. And then I came up with what rhymed.
Yes.
And she was basically doing all of it, let's be honest. I mean, she's an amazing songwriter.
We're just throwing out ideas.
We're just grabbing them and making them a real thing. And then it got good. We had that moment where we all went, oh! And I'm so glad I'm doing a podcast so you can capture moments like that.
Yeah.
And you'll love it when you hear it.
I'm excited,
it's really
man.
fun, yeah.
So on the episode, you play it.
Well,
on our interview.
The end of you have to go through the whole thing. So you hear us kind of find it, then she plays a kind of a loose version of it at the end. And then they wrote a whole thing, and this guy recorded I hope in 2 weeks this is #1 on the
Spotify
Billboard
charts or whatever. Wow.
By the way, remember we gave up our songwriting.
Did we? I thought we split it 4 ways. I thought we split the credits.
I'll just say this on air here. We felt so guilty.
Okay.
That we said if you get someone to record it,
there you go.
please. Give them all the money, but we're gonna really regret that.
Okay. Yeah. I want $1 million soon. So the song is good. It's actually really good.
Dude, I don't think because I have these pauses where I then haven't heard the show for a while and we're recording new shows. So when I heard it, I thought it was good when she was singing it, kind of acoustic. And then when I heard, I wish I should have brought it today and just played it
You don't have it
for you. I would love to have watched your face,
afterwards.
listening.
Another time, we'll listen to it.
Yeah.
So we did this whole experience. We did like a mini interview. I was actually interviewing you a lot on the episode.
Well, that was the annoying thing, Lewis, is that I am 3 episodes into my own podcast.
First podcast.
And I'm starting to talk about like where I grew up and what my difficulties were and challenges and overcoming them. And I was like, oh my God, I've been hypnotized. By Lewis. I mean, I've heard you do this to people,
The
but
interviewer
you did it to me.
yeah.
But I think we had the editor cut most of that out. Because I remember saying in the thing, like, well, I see what you did here.
Cut this out.
You're trying to turn it on me.
Yeah, it was fun though, man.
And a lot of what you were talking about in your life was then in the song. Do you remember Sim said at the beginning, like, he said, let's write the anthem for LA.
That's
like,
right.
there's no anthem for LA.
He did say
and then
that.
we just tore him down immediately. We're like, no, we want to write something that's like really,
Meaningful.
real.
Yeah.
It's like an anthem for LA.
Yeah, because he was thinking like New York anthem as like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good idea
But we're not
to make
Drake.
money. Yeah, exactly.
We're
but
not
like,
Drake and Beyonce. So amazing, man. Well, I'm excited for you. The show's going to be amazing. I'm excited to hear this hit #1 song. But you've had an incredible journey because you kind of came into fame as a teen star. And I remember you told me, I think when we met, that you had like 0 jobs before that, or maybe you did like 1 play, or wasn't it something like small?
well, I never acted before. I'd worked at Suncoast Video, the Stanford Mall, worked at Dunkin' Donuts. So that was kind of the extent
I
of
was
my.
what, like 15, 16, 17?
Oh yeah, and I mean, like my mom had to drive me because I didn't have my driver's license, and then I had a really weird thing happen to me, which is I haven't told the story in a long time. I had to tell it all to America at the beginning of when I started on 70 Show, which is I was in a high school play. I was not that I'm the athlete turned entertainer that you are.
Yeah.
I was on the varsity tennis team at the school. It's boarding school in New Hampshire, and
Which is what, like 300 students or something? Like
I mean, not
small.
even.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
making varsity is like you just have to be one of the 12 best people at tennis. And I sprained my ankle, and I had these little parts in the school play, past school plays they'd done. So I tried out for the lead, and I got it. It was a big, kind of scandal because I wasn't like a drama kid. Some of the drama geeks at the school said we're gonna not do the show. And it won't have a
Boycott it,
boycott it. And they got over that, and then I mean they're still probably mad about it because these producers who were the parents of the girl who made the sets were these big time Hollywood producers. I mean they were just like my friend Lindsay's parents.
Right.
But they called me. I was going to school at USC, so I got out here to USC the next year, and I guess they'd been developing that 70 Show, and they called me and said, "Would you like to come try out for?" I'd just been rejected from the film school. It's the only reason I went to USC. I've been rejected 3 times. So I was had no idea what I was doing with my life, and I'd never auditioned for anything outside of like school plays.
So you did this 1 school play, and her parents.
My actor friends hate when I tell this story, but the head of Fox at the time, I did a lot of like mini kind of audition. They said,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to the president of Fox. This is your final audition.
For that 70s show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said, bring a picture and resume because this is a real audition today. And I said, okay, wait, what do you mean? Like, what's a pic and resume? And they said, oh, it's like a photo of you so they know who it is. And on the back, you have a resume of like, all your jobs.
Credits, yeah.
I said, okay, cool. And I showed up.
Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah.
No, first of all, yeah, the back was literally Dunkin' Donuts and Suncoast Video in the one part I played in that play. And the front was a picture like that of me and my friends at Six Flags.
No way.
I didn't know what they meant. That it's like a headshot of
Wow.
So I was, I think that they were so shocked that I got the part. Like it was so, like they were looking for a real nerdy kid. Yeah, and that was what they got.
And they got you.
Yeah,
There
I
you
wasn't
go.
acting nerdy.
Wow. So you'd done 1 play. Your friend who was at the school or in the play, I guess, her parents, they saw it or something, or they watched?
Yeah, they saw. I knew them, and I knew they wrote Wayne's World and Tommy
Oh.
Boy, and it were huge movies at the time. And Third Rock from the Sun, which they wrote, had just won a Golden Globe. So we all knew they were watching the show, and we thought, oh my, this is amazing. But I don't think in my wildest dreams, I would have been like a PA for them during a summer. Maybe I would have asked them after freshman year, like, hey, but then I remember when she called, this Bonnie and Terry Turner, who were, just, by the way, they ran Saturday Night Live at one point, like very talented. She called me, but I didn't know it would be my friend's mom. So I was at school and just in my dorm.
At USC.
I think I was like a little high, and she said like, hey, it's Bonnie. And I was like, oh. like, did we like go out or like who are you? Like,
Wow.
and she was like, no, it's Lindsay's mom. And I was like, oh shit, I got detention. Like, what did I do? I was like putting out the whatever. And then she's like, no, we want you to. And this is before the show existed, so she had to kind of explain what the show was about. A couple of years ago, I bumped into one of the producers on it, and they said, yeah, we had auditioned like 1,000 kids. Like, it wasn't like they were thinking of me. Yeah, they went through everyone in LA, and I guess I did know when I went to the audition that that everyone was too cool. They were all professional nerds. You know, like they had like product in their hair, or they had like a little bit of makeup on.
Nerdy looking like.
Yeah, they'd be doing
Steve
their
Urkel-y,
lines.
like.
Yeah, like who you'd hire to play a nerd.
Yeah.
I was actually a nerd who couldn't get laid in college, like that at that moment. But these kids were reading the script. You know, they're all reading the script in the hallway, and they're kind of like, Donna, I'm such a loser. And I was like, oh, I got this, like, because I have real life experience.
Yeah,
I am a loser. Yeah.
So you did what was it like, your audition? Were you nervous?
Oh God, I'm more nervous than I've ever been for anything because I had a feeling, I just knew it would be a life changer if I got, even if it only went for 10 episodes and was canceled or something, it would be totally life changing for me. But then after I got it, I I wouldn't say depressed, but I was really, like, if you haven't dreamed that big or anything near that scale, and then it just happens like that. I mean, I left the room and they said, all right, you're gonna be on after The Simpsons and before The X-Files.
What?
And, I was like, oh my God.
How many auditions did you have to do?
I did like 12 mini auditions where they just wanted to see that I could like repeat what I'd done the last time or come up with something new. And then this one big audition was the real one.
With like some of the other cast members, or was it just you?
No, the only other person who got cast that day was Mila,
Wow.
who was 14 at the time.
Wow.
It was like crazy. But it was, it's funny. I remember everything that happened that year. And that's it. Like, I remember anything after it.
Really?
Because everything, my learning trajectory was so inverted that first year. It was so hard. I remember in the pilot, the director said, great job on that scene, but you didn't face any of the cameras. Like, I was that new to it. I didn't know, like, I didn't know anything. So that first year was like the most intense experience of my life. And then it got easier,
Yeah, of course. Wow. So when that was the 12th audition, the final one, where they were like, okay, this is it, and we're going to make our decision after this, how did they tell you? And
Oh, they came out and they said, hey, we're taking you to dinner because you got the part. And then over dinner, they were telling, I was in like a sleepwalking state, but I remember they said, you got it. And then the funny thing is I went back to school. It was spring break.
you were at
So
USC.
I hadn't gone back home. I'm from Connecticut, but I hadn't gone there because I had this audition, and spring break, everyone's gone. So this dorm of like 1,000 people was empty, and I just walked through it, and I had no one to tell. And
Wow.
I told like one Korean student who was there because
This
he
random
couldn't go home.
student.
I think he knew English, but I was like, I'm gonna be the lead of a show, and he was like, oh. Like, I'm not even sure still to this day if he understood me, or even if he did, like, he probably thought I was insane or something. But, and then what happened is I started to have headaches because I had like 2 months until we started working on it, and I started just feeling. I mean, don't take any. I'm not asking for pity. It was just an interesting thing where I knew I was very lucky, but I started. It was just a weird place to be, to have never have dreamed of anything like that ever happening, and then to know you're gonna do it. And it wasn't until I actually went home, just randomly. I went home for a week and skipped school. I was so kind of messed up about it. And then when we started working on it, on the pilot, the first day we started working, I felt better. Because I thought, oh, this is going to be really hard. Like, it just felt like you won the lottery and it's like you're too lucky or something,
But then you're like, oh, this is real work. This is 16, 20-hour days.
It's worse for me because I've never memorized a line. Really, like, I've never done it in front of people. I've never been on a set before. So once I realized how hard it was going to be, I felt better. That makes sense.
Because why? Because you realized it wasn't going to be this lucky thing. You had to work for it.
Yeah, it felt unfair. It felt a little, I don't know, like, I get why a lot of people who win the lottery have like problems.
Because they didn't work for it.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, I never actually really thought about it, but I think you just feel like someone gifted you something. And then, boy, did we really earn it, because we really did it for the next 7, 8 years.
7, 8 years.
Yeah.
How many? Was it 8 seasons?
It was 8 seasons, 200 episodes, so it's really, it was like I look back on it now. It was really the most beautiful thing doing that show because we were the kind of the age of the kids when it started,
Yeah.
and then we were having these experiences at the same time that I'm sure I know Wilmer was on here. It was
Yeah.
the same way. Like I'd go. I was such good friends with Wilmer. I'd go home and sleep over at his house. I mean, he was in high school,
Yeah.
and then we'd come back, or we'd go. Someone would go see a movie together. And we just came from working all day together. It was just a beautiful, just a great experience, and that it was our first meet. It's so sweet.
Yeah. All of you were kind of like newbies, I guess. Well, I guess maybe Ashton had done some stuff, but
Laura had never acted. Ashton never acted. They modeled.
yeah.
And Wilmer could barely speak English. And Mila and Danny had acted a little bit.
Yeah. What was the greatest lesson that you learned in that first season, in that
Oh my
first
God,
kind of year
Lewis,
where
I
you
mean,
were?
Oh my God. It's lessons on top of lessons. I mean, I guess it was mostly teamwork stuff. I wasn't in sports, so I didn't have
Yeah.
your understanding of,
Yeah.
but true teamwork, not just kind of like, hey, listen to what everyone says, but like really like we're in a crunch right now. Like, who do I pass the ball to that's going to score? And that's why I think that show did so well, is because, I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but that cast really gelled fast, and we all knew how to, like, this is Ashton's strength, or this is Laura's strength, or that kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow. What would you say is the biggest lesson from the whole 8-year experience? Like, if you look back on
Oh
all
my
the
God.
seasons, all the things you learned, what was the most important thing that you took away?
Just the other night, I was in a tense conversation with my wife. It wasn't a fight because I was wrong, but I really was wrong. And I think I learned to say, I'm wrong.
Over the 8 seasons.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. That's a skill that we don't like pay a lot of attention to, but that's another teamwork thing. And we have a kid now, and like, I remember the first time. Most of my stuff was with Laura Prepon, right? I worked with everyone, but she's an amazing actress, an amazing person,
Yeah.
and she's on Orange Is the New Black now. I mean, she's an
Yeah.
incredible success. And I remember in like the 5th or 6th episode, we had. I mean, it wasn't like a fight. It was just like I thought we should do the joke one way. She thought another way. She said, "Okay, let's do it your way." And in the middle of the run through, you kind of like rehearse to then run through it in front of the writers and the network and stuff. I did. This is a first, Liz. It's funny you're saying be real, but the truth is I've never told this story before. I did what her idea of the scene was, because in the moment I was like, "Wait, she's right. I'm wrong." Do you know what I mean? Like my idea of how this scene. So I did it. It was this kind of dance scene we were doing.
Did she
And it
know you
got-
were going to do her way?
No,
or
but
you
she
just-
went with it because she's such a rock star. And then after, I was only 19 then, but I was like, well, I've never said this before. I kind of went to her dressing room and I was like, hey, you were right. There's not a lot of like, when you're a student in school, there's not a lot of times you have to.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's better if you say I was wrong, but I don't think, there's no classes for that, And a lot of your work in high school is like very individual. And certainly in the plays, I thought I was right. Maybe not admitted to myself a couple times that I was wrong. And I said to Laura, like, you were right. I'm sorry. Like that kind of. And I really meant it. And she was like, sure. There's no way she remembers this, but it was amazing for me.
Wow.
And then over the 7 years, it's quick, like making that process quicker. Like, immediately, like before it becomes a thing, you know what I mean? Saying, actually, you're right.
Wow.
Just shaving down your ego, I guess, right?
Yeah, not dragging it on.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself grounded while you guys were just blowing up? Individually, as a show, as a group of, kids. How did you stay, or did you not?
Everyone
stay
handled that pretty differently, but I have a great parents, and I had been to boarding school, so I already was in the process of going home all the time. And it was kind of the same schedule. You have the summers off,
Yeah.
you have like winter break off. And so I had a very real place they were in the same house since I was born. So it always felt like I could go out to the real world and then kind of come back in. And they're great. They're really great, my parents. And that work I think is done before the thing happens to the person.
Yeah. How do you think people should handle when a big break happens in life, when they win the lottery or something happens, or they get a big press hit, or they get a huge client that maybe they couldn't even dream of, like where you were at?
Yeah.
How can someone take a step back and handle that, or approach that with grace moving forward, so that they don't blow the opportunity? It sounds like you didn't blow it, but you
Well, I
had a
didn't blow
lot
it,
of
but
headaches and stress.
I would have loved to have been better too. I mean, I certainly made every mistake there was to make. But I think like one thing I hated, I remember at the time, was people would say, "Don't change." You don't know what that means, especially when you're 19, because you're like, oh, I want to change. Like I hate my life. You know what I mean? Like I hate. I didn't hate my life, but I wanted to do so many different things. And when people are telling you not to change, you also, that's an impossible thing to do. It's probably bad to not change. They're saying like, kind of stay grounded. I didn't know what that meant. What do I think? Gosh, I think he's probably making every mistake. I sadly don't know if there's a way to.
It's messing up and fumbling along the way so you can learn the lessons you need.
Yeah, I think that's why I said the most valuable lesson was saying you were wrong. I'll give you a great example of that. All these lessons I live with every day because I'm still doing the same job. Is the director, David Trainer. He directed every episode of that show, which is very rare for a sitcom director to do all 200 episodes. And he's a wonderful human. He started on Broadway, so he comes from a really working with actors place. Some of these TV directors, they're coming at it from more of a visual place, but he's coming at it from an acting place. And like I said, I mean, I was so green in terms of just communicating with actors. I'd say like, you know, in my mind, I thought you were going to do that differently. That's like not something you can say as an actor to another actor on set. It's like, no, I saw it differently in my head. It's like illegal. But we were all starting, and he was very patient with us that first season. So I think in episode like 7 or 8, like really early on, came up to me and said like, can you do this scene faster? Or, you know, it needs to be quick. And he had an even nicer way of saying like, I think Eric would be, you know, more wanting to get there. But I understood the message was like faster, like you got to get to the commercial. And I was mad because I really liked the way I was doing it. It really stepped on my ego.
Oh,
like
in the first season.
Yeah, I didn't even look at like, I don't mean my ego like I had a huge ego. I mean more like just it personally hurt my feelings. Like I had an opinion on the scene. As you always, if you're an actor, I think of any consequence, it's because you have a idea for the scene.
Point of view.
Yeah, point of view. But you know, you're not the boss. You're hired to do that. So I was mad. I eventually did it faster, but I was really grumbling about it. And I think when I saw it, I didn't even pay attention to whether it was actually better or not. I was just like, you know, really feeling mad about it. And then like, I want to say 2 years later, we're still on the show. It's now season 3. I was having a dream and I woke up like early one morning and I was like, was he right about that? I mean, this is like...
Wow, 2 years later.
I was still working with him all the time. And I was like, and I noticed how, you know, brilliant the guy was. And I was like, well, I don't know if he was right. Maybe we both had good points. Like maybe like then half a year after that, I was like, no, he was right. You know what I mean? Like I was really wrong about that. And so that was now like 2.5 years later. And what I realized I needed to do was when a director comes up to you, have that exact conversation that I had with myself, which is you can't stop yourself from being offended. That's, you know, if I came in here and said like, why did you put books here? Why did you? It's kind of a lame studio. You can't like help yourself from being like, well, I spent a lot of time on this studio. But what you have to do in a period of, it's getting it from 2 years into 3 seconds, is to say like, okay, let me listen, let me open myself, let me, you know, so I've tried to take that process, and now when like, you know, Spike Lee or Chris Nolan or one of these directors comes up to me, I still have the same, by the way, if anyone comes up to you and says anything's wrong about you, you kind of like want to put up a wall. And so that is an example of something that I've taken with me where...
That's a powerful skill because most people can hold on to words or something that someone says or doesn't say, an acknowledgement or non-acknowledgement, and hold on to it for years, like you said, or months or days or hours. And it can consume their minds so much where they aren't incapable of taking action on their dreams or being better.
I wasn't...
I'm not saying this was that
every
example.
minute of every day thinking about that scene,
but I wonder how I mean, you've dealt with this, and I think actors probably deal with this the most because they're constantly getting critiqued or judged or having to say, no, redo the scene, I'm assuming. So how do you teach other people to deal with those emotions where they don't hold on to something, but they take the feedback quickly, they say, okay, this feels whatever, but I'm going to move forward?
I don't know how to tell someone else to listen. like it's impossible. It's like really only there's one person you can control.
Yeah.
But I will say the people who don't listen, especially on something as collaborative as a film set or a TV set, the punishment is theirs. You know, like even if they think they're standing up for their thing, if you don't know how to listen, it only hurts you.
Who's been the most brilliant person you've worked with? Actor, producer, director, or just in general in entertainment?
We did an episode of my podcast with Lewis House.
Exactly.
That changed the game for me. I moved. I gave away all my belongings. No.
Was there an actor that you were just like, wow, I've never experienced someone so brilliant, whether it be a scene or consistently, or a director, or you're just like...
I'm going to give you a couple people.
Yeah.
With directors, for me, it was definitely David Traynor, who directed 70 Show. And early on, my first film was Traffic, and Steven Soderbergh was someone I was a huge fan of then. He'd just done Out of Sight, Aaron Brockovich and stuff, and then he was doing Traffic. And like to be able to work with him, I didn't even know how to appreciate that because it was my first film. But in retrospect, I look back, and he also holds the camera, so he's right there with you. But Paul Weitz is an amazing director that I worked with, who you've seen his stuff like About a Boy and In Good Company, and he's amazing. And I did a play with him in New York.
Wow.
Another amazing experience. And Spike Lee, who I mentioned, Chris Nolan, and that's been like my... David Michaud is a really great director. I'm working with just directors that I really love. So the list gets more, hopefully I can add more and more to that list. And actors, Adam Driver was in BlacKkKlansman. I got some stuff with him, and I thought he was
That guy's brilliant. I mean, he was in Girls, wasn't he, for a few seasons?
Yeah, he's in the Star Wars movies now, but he's also like, him and John David Washington in that movie were like, there were one or two scenes I had with it was the three of us, and I was like, well, this is a really fun day. I mean, it was very heavy subject matter, but like just bouncing off actors like that is just so much fun.
What is it about those actors that make them so unique? That you're like, wow, this has got like a talent that's even beyond...
I had a thing looking at Adam a couple times where I was like, this isn't fair. Like his vessel is so much better. He's got this deep voice and this like... He's got a way of delivering lines that if I wanted to copy, I couldn't. You know what else was really great for me and very informative to work with was Dennis Quaid. I actually have done 4 things with him.
Wow.
And he was in Traffic, but then we did this movie in Good Company, and then we did this movie a couple years ago called Truth with Cate Blanchett, and that was another set where I was just like, Robert Redford was in that, so we'd be in scenes sometimes, all of us, and I'd go like, screw it. We were at dinner sometimes, and I was like, holy crap.
Is this
like,
real life?
Exactly. But I think I always knew it was working with great people because I've been in great ensembles, but it's more and more what I'm like obsessed with, just getting around good people, and I don't even care if the movie does that well.
Yeah.
I just
like
want
the experience, the journey. What makes those people so great, do you think? You know, these few people you've talked about, these actors.
Oh, what's the kind of like the thread?
Yeah.
Man, I think it's that they don't care about the money.
Wow, interesting. They care about the art, the craft.
All these directors and actors, all of them, when you are doing something for money, it takes on, it's a different thing, and it just keeps kind of, I don't know, metastasizing. You know what I mean? It just keeps getting more about that. And if you kind of say, like I lost money doing BlacKkKlansman.
You lost money because you were an executive producer, or you were...
No. No, the film made money. I wish I had a piece of it. But no, they said, we don't know if you're right for this. They'd never seen me, do that kind of role. So I said, let me go in and read for Spike personally. And then when I got it, they said, we'd love to have you, but it's a local hire, meaning you have to be from New York. So they don't have to fly you out. And I said, oh no, I'll fly myself. And so when you're making decisions from that point of view...
Right.
But it's all ego, kind of if you go, oh my God, I didn't get paid, and I had to go in and audition, I've been in the business for a while, you could not have that experience.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different ways you could talk yourself out of it,
So you felt like you got a pay cut, you had to do things, you had to drive yourself to work, whatever, per se.
But that's not hard.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. You gotta live that life way before.
Uh-huh.
Like I remember there was a period of time I was on this movie, I was looking around, everyone had an assistant. And I was like, what do we need an assistant for? My life is so boring. Do you know what I mean? Like, like going to get when you're out of work, as an actor, which is the majority of the time, like you can go get your own dry cleaning.
Yeah, you have a lot of free time.
Man, one time I had an assistant because it was in my contract I was producing a movie. And I was like, can you dial so-and-so? And she's like, where? And I was like, I'll do it. Like I couldn't figure out like, it was like it's a waste of time to educate them. There are jobs where you need an assistant, but this is not one of them. But I can see where people start to detach from like, well, now I got to pay for my assistant, so I got to do this project. And then it goes, the wrong way.
Wow. So what was that experience like for you being like this white supremacist in a time of our, country and world where it's very sensitive?
Well, it's two very different things. Playing the character and doing the research for the character was just like near depression. Like it was,
wow.
Because I really wanted to come correct for Spike, and I did it. I read his autobiography, which is like, it's basically his version of Mein Kampf. And then I was watching these interviews with him, and my wife we just had our kid at that point, and she was like, you need to take it in the basement. Like, first of all, don't run those lines like around
Right.
that, but also like, you're just like depressed. When we started shooting it, it was more fun because I said there was so many great people to work with. But the research was depressing. The doing it, and also the idea of working with Spike on something that at that very moment was Charlottesville had just happened.
Crazy.
They added that stuff about Charlottesville at the end later.
Crazy.
So you're watching the news every day. You're so frustrated, as we all are, and then
And you're the one who's giving the lines. It's like the bad guy.
Well, that's but yes, that's when Spike would kind of come up and be like, "Don't worry, I know we shot all just Klan rally stuff this week, but like this isn't what the film is going to be like. I got you." But just as an artist, you're an actor. People shouldn't be listening to what you're saying. They really should. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's an actor out there that I'm like, yeah, I want to listen to his opinion on politics.
Right.
But we all have opinions, and to go work with someone like Spike, who people should listen to, and to be able to say something. I remember when the trailer came out, we improvised a thing. I went up to Spike and I said, hey, what if we worked in America First? Because it had kind of happened recently. And he said, yeah, that's great. So during the toast, I say America First. And then that was the end of the trailer.
For the speech.
Yeah, I'm giving a speech, and I lead a toast for everyone. Start chanting it after me, and I was like, oh, this is going to play in the theater. And then when it was at the end of the trailer, I was like, is Trump going to see this? Like, I know he watches TV,
Right.
And so it was a very cathartic experience. It was very tough, but it was very cathartic to be able to have all this frustration and then kind of be able to, it's Spike who's saying something, but I get to help him say something.
That's
really
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was a moment where you had your own opinion, and the director said, yeah, I like your opinion.
We did a lot of rehearsals too. I think that might have come out of rehearsals. And it's something not a lot of directors do, but John David, that was his first starring role. We were in these rehearsals, and I was like, oh, this is going to go great. Like, this guy's amazing.
Wow. It's incredible, man. Now, what is that like for your personal life when you play a character that is this evil character in a very sensitive, touchy, subject? Not like the bad guy in some Star Wars movie, but
well, if you're playing the Joker, you can do a little bit of like, well, maybe I kind of see his point of view. Because in my made-up story, his father was abusive to him or whatever.
Right.
In this, it's like I couldn't find that thing. That the more I read and did research on him, and it was a lot, I couldn't find that thing that made me sympathize with him. So what I did was I just played kind of pure evil, but totally covered up. And that's how he is too, in my opinion. It's like it all looks very easy to digest, and then the deeper you go, the more. And hopefully that's what it feels like in the movie. Like the more you get to know the character, you're like, oh, this guy.
How do you? Did you feel any attacks personally in your personal life? Like, did people come up to you and say, like,
I said that to
you're
Spike when I
this
was
horrible
cast. I said, man, like I ride the subway sometimes, like. And he said, no, don't worry. Like, I think it was John Turturro or someone said that to him on Do the Right Thing, and he said, no, you're with me. Like, don't worry about it. And it's true. The thing I wasn't scared about was black people thinking I was racist. The thing I was scared about was white racists thinking I was racist.
Huh.
And someone, kind of looking at me and going, like, you get it.
Really?
And I haven't had any of that, but I don't really hang out with any of those people.
Right. You're in Hollywood, like chilling.
Yeah. So I don't know. But
interesting.
I was nervous when it came out, and I was glad that the film was. I saw it at Cannes for the first time when it premiered.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were doing it, I would say to Spike, like, hope we get this, but it's so much humor on top of something that's so heavy. Like, can this work as a movie? And to his credit, I turned to him in Cannes. I was like, I have never seen anything like this, and it did work. And I couldn't believe it.
It's a beautiful movie, man. It's a great experience.
Thanks,
yeah, it's very good. Now, what is life like? What was life like pre-marriage and baby as an actor, thriving in Hollywood, and now you have a 1.5-year-old married, and what is life like now as a father, being an actor, starting a podcast, doing these projects? How do you handle it emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, it's everything everyone tells you, and you don't listen beforehand.
And you wait as long as you can. Yeah.
I did. I literally did. But I think, it does get worse, but it gets so much better that it's worth the ride. And my daughter's now at this age that's, unbelievable. I would say the podcast, if I go project by project, the podcast is the most fun because it's 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
And I have a reason to leave once a week. And what's great is the nature of it is it's not just, you got to hear my life story. It's probably boring to you. But like when you came on, we got to talk about I'd never written a song. And then similarly, I've never been hooked up to a lie detector test, or I've certainly never done beatboxing. So it's like all these adventures. Everyone who has a new kid should definitely have a podcast where they have a different expert come in. It's like a liberal arts education for a 40-year-old or something.
There you go.
But so that's really fun, and there's kind of nothing hard about that. And I'm home, 2 hours later with my kid. I'll tell you, I'm in this. There's an adaptation of The Hot Zone coming out on Nat Geo, which is one of my favorite books from the '90s, and I'm in it. And there's a scene where I had to cry. And the real difference I noticed was beforehand I'd have a little trouble crying sometimes. I'd have to work myself up. And
after the child.
Oh man, it was like I couldn't, it's a very emotional scene.
Really?
Yeah, and I just so fast. I just went there because you're just, I don't know, you're just more loaded up. You didn't know that chamber existed for you,
Do you feel like you're a better actor then? Because
I'm certainly better crying actor. Yeah, if you want me to be less emotional, maybe that's hard now, but no, I think it's good for an actor. You can always scale it back, you know what I mean? But to find a new kind of cylinder, it's good, yeah.
Man. Do you feel like you're creating do you feel more urgent to be a working actor, or you kind of like, I've had my time, and if something comes, cool, but I want to be a father? And
oh yeah, I think.
Or is it like,
it would be hard to find the actor who's a dad. Actually, that's probably not true. You probably could find it. It's just you wouldn't like that guy who's like, get me on location.
Right.
I'm like, part of the reason that I'm excited to have a podcast and hopefully we monetize it at some point is because I'd love to, take one movie a year off the docket.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want an office job?
Yeah.
When you're younger, you're thinking, how can I be an actor and be in movies? And now I'm like, how do I just stay home?
Really?
Yeah, you're one, even before we had a kid, you crave the schedule.
The groundedness,
there's no
the routine.
schedule. Yeah. I'll have 2 months where I don't work, and then a month where I'm getting up at 4:30 every morning, and it's like I'm all over the place. Every project's so different.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love just have a company I go into and just
every day
work at. Yeah,
especially
having a kid.
You have the opposite life of most people.
Well, you do too, probably, right?
Yeah, exactly. But most people don't want to go to an office and work every day. They want to have the flexibility and freedom and have creative projects and.
Well, it's funny.
But you did that for 20 years.
Yeah, I grew up. My dad would come home at 6 p.m. every day, and I think that was good for me, and it was good for him.
Yeah, the routine is powerful. Whenever I'm traveling too much, I feel like I'm off my workout schedule.
But you probably got if you have a problem, you're like, okay, let's sit down, let's fix it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna be my new schedule, and I'm gonna do. That's what you wouldn't know this, but most humans just let it kind of go.
Sure.
And then they kind of go, my life's crap right now. I gotta figure it out.
Right.
But yeah, I hope. In terms of, I think what your original question was, which was, do I seek out projects as much? No, but a little bit that's having a kid. A little bit of that is kind of feeling confident that I'll probably work again.
Yeah, so the right projects will come to you.
Yeah, there was a time 10 years ago where you go come on. But it's funny. I realized I didn't have to do that. It just was, I was young.
The anxiety of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of actors who, I think we might have talked about this briefly on your show, that there's a lot of actors who they might have huge hits and then for 3, 4, 5 years get nothing because they've been casted as a specific role or whatever, and they just can't even get auditions.
Yeah, look, I entered the business in a really unfair way. I've worked hard to earn it in retrospect. You know what I mean?
You've done the work over the years.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, but it's still probably nothing compared to someone who has to enter from the ground. And so I have great respect for people who, you know, really have to grind it out and trying to earn it now.
What would you say is your biggest insecurity?
Well, it wouldn't have anything to do with work anymore. You know, like, and that's another thing about having a kid. And really, when I met my wife, you start feeling you're in a family that it would be like, I don't know, like the polar ice caps are melting. Like when she's an adult, there's not gonna be any polar ice caps. That's not right.
Right.
I mean, I can do nothing except maybe be in Spike Lee's movie about climate change.
Right.
You know, maybe you can do a little something. But yeah, it's all kind of family stuff, and you know, and also being a new dad is like, you just think of every worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Save yourself, man. You're
That
not married,
sucks,
right?
man. No.
Just don't be in it. You're like, why did I do this? I care so much about this human.
Yeah.
It's unbalanced, you know, like, but it's too late now.
What's the greatest lesson you learned from your daughter so far?
It would be something involving patience. She's not that old, so like.
Right. Well, learn about yourself through her. Yeah.
Well, yesterday was my day. I take Tuesdays. That's all me, and it's long. I mean, it's like no one tells you how kind of boring it is at the beginning. I mean, she can't even talk yet, so like we're spending all day together. She's kind of like hitting a pillow, and I'm like, this was a good 5 minutes, and we got to fill up 12 more hours. But
the
she's,
patience.
What's that?
The patience.
Patience is what she's talking about. You know, yeah, I guess. Also, like, you don't. I hate to be cliched because it's what everyone says, but you didn't know you could love someone that much.
Really?
You know, it's like it's. But everything I'm saying, everyone's said before. You know.
But it's true, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
Who do you love
Looks
more?
like me. It's totally self-centered. She looks like me. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful.
What's been the greatest challenge being married in the relationship while having a new child?
You know, it's funny. Everyone said like it's the sleep, and I was like, man, I've done all-nighters on film. Like I did a whole movie that was all-nighters. You know what I mean? I'll just kind of figure it out. And it's not that. It's like all-nighters with this incredible amount of stress, and so it's just. I would say it's kind of the sleep, and my wife's a rock star. I mean, like, I've really married up. So she's a great parent. I am a good co-parent with her, but she's a born amazing parent, and she's also a rock star at everything she does. So I've just been trying to kind of, bend the knee, like a Game of Thrones, you know what I mean? Like I bend the knee to you, and she's, but that's part of any business, right? Like I feel that way with Sim on this podcast.
Yeah.
Sim has already made one of the great podcasts of the early podcasty
World,
podcast sphere, and I did have a point where I worked with people that I was like friends with more on movies and producing and stuff, and I realized like I do want to work with friends if they're the best at what they do, but that's not always the case with your friends. And so I didn't know Sim. I met him once years ago, and then I went on a podcast, and he said, I want to take you out to lunch. And I was kind of open to it. I said, sure. I thought it was like to hang out or something. He said, I want to do your podcast because I guess it had gotten like a lot of downloads or something. And I said, oh, I don't want to have a podcast. And then I thought the idea, he was so passionate about it as Sim is, and he's so, he's at the forefront of this new thing that I thought, I'd like to work with him on this. And it's really him. Like he came up with that format of the adventures. Like
that's cool.
I couldn't have come up with. I don't know what my bad idea for a podcast would have been with me, but I think someone once told me you got to feel if you have a partner like you both have to feel like you're fleecing each other at all times.
Fleecing each other?
Yeah, like taking advantage of each other. Like I'm winning being married to my wife, and she just doesn't know it. Like I'm sneakily like, and it's the same thing with Sim. I'm kind of like.
I just show up and
exactly.
do my thing.
And if he feels that way about me and my wife feels that way about me, then it's, Then
it works.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife will be thrilled that I compared her to Sim Sarna in all endeavors.
Right, exactly. Okay, this is more of a deeper question. Imagine,
This is great. Do you remember what I made you talk about when you came on mine? I was like, you can cut this part out if you want to. Is like, do other motivational speakers, do you hate them? We didn't, it didn't make our podcast, so don't worry about it. But it was like, you turn on Facebook, everyone's like living their best life and whatever,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
actually did it. But like, I mean, people are watching this thing right now, but
Yeah.
these people, it's got like 34 likes, and it's probably half of it's their family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so obsessed with like, what does that feel like to be?
Mm-hmm.
What a weird time we live in. No one could do what you do normally
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, but now
Right.
everyone's, talking on their phone and telling them like,
Yeah.
you
Give 'em
gotta stick with your
speeches.
dream or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, you don't even have your life together.
Right.
Like, I don't mean you. I mean the person who's.
Everyone's trying to be a coach of something, and that's why I've tried to take a different angle and not be necessarily a coach, even though people come to me for coaching and mentorship or whatever, but I try to be a facilitator of ideas and say, I'm going on an adventure, kind of like you. Here's what I've discovered for myself. Here's the lesson I learned through
Because you can do that.
me doing
the
this
other thing you
action.
can't tell someone do this.
Right.
You'll be better, right? I mean, but you can say like talk
This is
about
what I
yourself
did.
and like right, exactly.
Here's how I learned because I was chasing my dream doing this. This is what I learned, and here's something you can try.
It does. It bugs the shit out of you, right? Come on, like you're watching these people, and also one, you're going, I could do this so much better, and two, you're saying you're doing it wrong.
It doesn't bug me because it allows me to rise to the top.
That's smart.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, okay, everyone's looking for answers or looking for solutions, and it allows my platform to continue to rise.
I feel like that when I watch just a terrible movie
You're like,
with
okay,
bad
good.
acting. I go like, oh,
Good. More
this
people
isn't so
watch
hard.
mine.
Like,
And I think I also look at like, I want people to succeed. Like if their dream is to be a coach or to be this or that, like I want you to figure it out one day because I want to collaborate with people who are rising.
sure.
So
yeah.
I look at, it's just like, I don't know, if you see someone who's a bad actor when you're starting out, but they worked on it for 10 years and now it's like their career took
No,
off.
I don't want those people to take. I want, especially people who are 40-year-old male, white.
Right, nerdies. Yeah.
Yeah, I want those people to fail miserably. And there's kind of only one spot left.
It forces you to get better though.
That is true.
If there's competition, it forces you to say, you know what? Good. I'm going to learn how to be better. I'm going to learn how to grow, how to invest more of my resources and my time, how to have a different, unique opinion so that I stand out.
Do you know who's the best actor to watch talk? I mean, I don't really like watching actors talk, so I'm even
You mean of
wary
the
when
opinion out of the screen?
outside of the screen is Ethan Hawke. I just straight up YouTube videos of him, giving interviews. He's always saying stuff that's like really important about the craft or outside of the craft. And he told this story about River Phoenix because they were in The Explorers together. Do you remember that movie?
No.
In the 80s, they were like kid actors in it. Like, who knew they were both going to blow up so hard? Like, it was just, they were two kids in a movie with these three boys who go into outer space or whatever. And he decided to go to boarding school. And this is before Dead Poet Society or any of this stuff, and just decided to be a real kid. And River Phoenix became everything. He was the coolest guy in Hollywood all of a sudden. And you got to hear him tell this story, but River Phoenix was in like a Rolling Stone interview where he's on the cover and he's talking about reading Catcher in the Rye.
Wow.
And Ethan Hawke's like, you didn't read it, I read it, and I told you what it was. He said he was in agony of jealousy of River.
Wow.
And he said when he died, it just like exploded him. Like he went like, I was wrong. Like that guy was making me better the whole time. Like I wouldn't have been in Dead Poet Society. He wouldn't be doing what he's doing today if he didn't have that
competition or that
I
other.
don't even know if it was just competition. It was like he also respected him on a certain level and thought he was great. And I just went, oh, that's so great he told that story because I do think you're right. Ultimately, people you respect give you. I had that in tennis. If you play someone worse than you, you lose to them.
Yeah, you're
You
not
play
gonna
someone
as
better and you get better. Yeah.
LeBron James wants competition because it's going to make him score more points and be one of the greatest of all time, as opposed to all he needs 20 points this game to win.
This is the difference between you and these guys on Facebook. This is what I'm saying. You actually came from doing something where when you say
Right.
that, I go, oh, you've been
Yeah.
on the field.
You'd rather play against the best and win, and you're like, man, I gave my all and it worked, as opposed to like, oh, that was an easy season. We won the championship because we didn't play anyone.
I know you're right. I mean, in the way that movie making is like sports. I
Right.
agree
If
with
it's
you, yeah.
like, if there was 100 bad movies and you were the only good one, and you're like, oh, we're going to win every award. Cool, feels good. But it's like, no
Well,
one.
back that up, actually. Do you mean the Academy Award?
Yeah.
Mm.
Or any other way. You're like, I'll take that.
Yeah, I guess, huh?
But you know what I mean? It's like, you'd rather win knowing like, man, there were 4 other great nominations. Like,
But I
they
think
were
what's even better is that
unbelievable.
they make you better. It's not
Yeah.
just that, like, you kind of can feel the competition is actually the wrong word. It's got a
Yeah,
negative.
yeah, not competition, but just other quality work.
Yeah.
Other people
Yeah.
doing great work that make you want to do great art as well.
Yeah.
Here's a quite more of a personal question for you. Hypothetical. Imagine this is your last day,
Ooh.
and it's not going to happen. But let's just say.
Why did I come to your podcast? Took away from my family and my.
No,
I gotta get out of here.
maybe imagine in a year or a couple of years, it's one of your last days, and your daughter isn't able to speak yet. So I guess it's coming up in a few months,
Right.
and you can leave her with one lesson that you can record on a video or you can
Right.
say over audio that this will be a lesson that she can
Right, because
watch.
she's the age now where I'm like, chair.
Right, no.
Chair.
But
That
then when,
wouldn't be the right lesson.
when
to-
she's 16, 18, 21, she can
Right.
open this lesson and
Ugh.
listen to it, watch it. She can take it in. What would you say to your daughter on how to experience her life?
It's funny. It's something I talked about on Anna's podcast because it was a movie I did with Anna. I had enough successful things that I got to produce a movie, and it failed so hard. It was number 11 out of 10 opening weekend. I mean, it was just like,
Crickets.
it wasn't for lack of me trying. It was for lack of me knowing anything about how to do something like that. And I cared so much about it, and I was so. I knew that it got held for a little bit, which is very painful. And in that time, I felt like I had then digested the lessons, but it was kind of too late. Do you know what I mean? But so I knew there was learning going on. But when it came out, I was just devastated. And then a couple months later, like from that time on, my life has been, or my working life has been unbelievable because it taught me so much.
Even after you failed so miserably.
Well, I would say that. I mean, everyone has a different version of the story,
Sure,
but
sure.
failure is the most wonderful teacher. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's like all the current successes I'm having are because of trying to go deeper in a thing that I didn't understand. And there's no way, when I'm watching my daughter right now, she didn't start walking until she fell on the floor like 1,000 times. So, I'm sure it hurt. She can't even talk about it. She's learning to try to talk. It's the same thing. I was really, I didn't even understand what the job of actor was until I got out of it as a producer and saw there were all these other elements. And every right move that I make now is because I made a wrong move then. And it was great talking to Anna about it because, by the way, I like the movie still. It wasn't like it was a terrible film. It just kind of, God, you go back to each experience and you say, I mean, who doesn't do this past a certain age? Go, oh, if only I could change that. Or if only I could change that. But that's what the future is about, is being able to change it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So what would you say to her?
I say
embrace the
failure.
failures, or-
Yeah, just don't be. At the time, I had so many wins in a row.
Yeah.
And you get addicted to that feeling, but it's actually, I tried to do this mathematically once. It's like when you're feeling challenged, you're actually going up the mountain. And when you're going down the mountain, you feel amazing. Like there's no challenge. You're just sliding right down it, so like it's so much fun, but then you look up a year later and you go, oh, I didn't do anything, any consequence or whatever. But every time you're messing up, I felt it the whole time I was doing 70 Show. I'd learned the best way to do an interview, and that's only from doing, like, I went on Leno and I couldn't speak. I was so nervous. I mean, it's like, and then they were like, that was a terrible interview, and you could figure it out, and, it's so, the whole thing, I guarantee you, this is the thing to do, to look at other people who are crazy successful, who you want to be like, and go, oh, they messed up, they've done it all wrong too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were not as famous as I was
Right.
when they were messing it up. But I think that to me is I so embrace failure now.
Yeah.
When I fail, I know I'm my status is rising, which I think a lot of people
Really?
think when they're failing, they're going down.
You think
It's
you're
really kind of
rising.
when you're succeeding that you're not growing, right?
You're not growing. You might be hitting your stride, but you're not exceeding
No,
your
just
stride.
the act of just succeeding. The work is when you're working and it's challenging and then it has success. That's great. That work was great. But, I just went to 200 parties for Black Klansmen. That doesn't help anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're just having fun. You're just like getting
yeah, I mean,
acknowledged.
it maybe helps the movie's chances at being nominated or something. But it's truly when you're, just what I've noticed for me, maybe I'm just so bad at it, this is how it feels to me, is that when you're dealing with obstacles and you're even failing against them, but then you're learning how to do it better, that's when you're actually climbing. It's just painful.
Yeah, I hear you. Man, this is called the three truths.
Yeah.
This question.
But I gotta think about Lewis Howes' metaphor for climbing. Something with rock climbing, or can you give me one? So you're rock climbing, it's painful, it hurts you, or whatever, but that's how you have the muscles at the end.
Exactly.
I don't know.
This is called the three truths. I asked this question at the end for everyone. So you kind of shared one already, but maybe you'll have a different three here. So imagine this is your second death.
Wow, okay. What is this podcast called, actually? Am I dead now?
You got to go through pain, remember?
I'm in like some kind of purgatory where you just interview me until we see if I get into heaven or something, right?
So imagine this is like your last day, you're 100 and something years old. Okay, you live as long as you want to live,
Right.
You achieve everything.
80's good.
Okay, 80 is good. You achieve all the things you want to achieve, you have the life of your dreams. You go through failures, ups and downs, but it's the final day, and you look back and you say, I don't regret anything, I did it all. Great life. And you get to leave behind three truths, three things you know to be true from all your experiences, all your lessons, all your ups and downs that you would share with the world, not just your daughter, but with the world. What would you say are your three lessons or three truths to the world?
Oh man. Well, yeah, the failure would be one. That would be if you are getting that penis reduction surgery, research the doctor. That's all I'll say. No, the other two would be. Oh man, I'm not anyone that someone should listen to.
But just what do you feel from your life experiences that makes sense for you?
I would say, yeah, maybe one that's in tandem with that failure thing is being up for anything. I noticed that when you came on our podcast, because we were talking about sports and then we were talking about being an orator kind of, and then someone came in and said, we're going to write a pop song, and you didn't miss a beat. Like I thought you were maybe going to go, I was kind of hoping, to be honest, that you were going to be like, I can't do this, because you want, a guy who's confident, who's got, to like not, but you jumped right in, man. And you told me a story when we were talking, so I think I knew it was gonna be like that, where you did the musical in high school.
Yeah.
And if there's
I jumped in, yeah.
Yeah, that's like
I was scared, but I jumped in.
I was scared of football, but I didn't play football. I was doing the musical. So like, I think that quality, which I learned maybe later in life, I wish I'd had. It has to do with failure.
Yeah.
But I think it's a slightly different thing.
Yeah.
It's like just jumping, and even if I fall.
Hit
single
song coming out.
coming out on iTunes and out now. It's that is true. It's like it's worse to not have
tried.
To try.
Isn't it is worse than I've tried than I never tried at all, or something?
That's
like,
one of the lyrics.
Like
That's
that's
it,
right?
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait for you to hear this. I love that you still know the lyrics.
remember,
That's how
man.
good it is, man.
It's so catchy.
How memorable it is that we wrote it and we remember it. But like,
this was like 3 months ago or something, right? It was a while ago.
I really believe in that. I've had a couple of instances where some director will say like, we want him to fly out here to try out for it, but don't waste the trip. It's who knows? I can't promise you the role or whatever. And I think, man, get on that plane, go.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But it's so much easier said than done. My dad used to say that to me all the time. Like, ask her out. Ask her to prom.
So
What's the worst that can happen? Like, what happened?
Rejected. You
She
feel like a
rejected me in front of all my
loser.
friends. But I even think that made me stronger. So I think that's one. And then my other one would be three truths. Oh man. Just dance like no one's watching. It would be. I think there's a balance of real world and fake world. It doesn't just have to be Hollywood, although Hollywood is a much more pronounced. Like you really can tell like what is the red carpet and what is you at home in sweats. But I think everyone has a version of, kind of this curated work-life thing and this home where you feel comfortable. And I think you have to be tipping, at the very least, tipping in the direction of home. I heard this thing on Charlie Rose once years ago where he was interviewing Andre Agassi, and he said, hey, I'm going to ask you a question. What's the best day of your life? But first, I'm going to play the same question I asked Pete Sampras on my show last month. So they turned to the monitor, and Pete Sampras said...
When I beat Agassi or what?
No, it's just kind of like tied, match set, whatever, you know what I mean, with Agassi, overtime, whatever, and, beautiful day, maybe Wimbledon, that kind of thing. And then it came back to Agassi, and he said, "Oh, that's really kind. Like, wow." And he said, "Well, what would be your best day?" And he was like, "I probably having like a barbecue with my family." Like, it wasn't about tennis at all.
Wow.
It's great, and it just showed the difference between those two players, right? Sampras was, kind of a real robot about it, and like Agassi was more of an artist. And I do believe that your personal stuff is tied to whatever your professional wants or dreams are. Kind of can't happen without that balance.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that truth before. That's powerful.
Did you say it or something?
No, I don't think I've heard that from
Oh,
people.
you don't think you've heard it? Oh, I thought you said, I think I've heard it before.
No, I don't think I've heard that before.
I housed your book last night, man.
No, that's good. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I would say page 82.
No, I think that's powerful. I want to acknowledge you for a moment for constantly showing up and reinventing yourself, because I think it's hard to be a star in one show and then continue to reinvent and do other challenging projects and try to do that in this space. I've seen a lot of actors who haven't been able to do that, and you've been doing it for 20 years.
Someone asked me on the red carpet of Black Times and Jake, "Did you ever see yourself playing the Grand Wizard of the KKK when you were doing a 70s show?" And I was like, "What? Why would I have been daydreaming about if I could ever play the exact opposite?"
But it's powerful, man, because you're willing to take risk, you're willing to take the jump, you're willing to fail, and I acknowledge you for that, man. I acknowledge you for being a powerful father, a great leader for your family, and everything that you do, and taking the risk for the podcast. So congrats on
Thank you, dude.
Congrats on that as well.
And thank you for. By the way, I was, just so your audience knows, I was 2 episodes in before you.
Yeah, and
really
one was
nervous.
like with Sim or something.
People
right?
had vouched for you, and I was aware of you, but you don't know what someone's actually going to show up with that kind of energy, and it was. We should give you a cut of that show because you were so great. The adventure went so great. It was our first great one, and
that's good.
just thank you for coming on.
It all went downhill after that. No, just kidding.
No, weirdly, it could, but it's when you see that something. It's just like doing a show or movies. If you see it can start working, then that becomes the roadmap of how do we do this kind of thing.
That's cool. So it kind of led the way for the next.
I won't tell you what the first 2 episodes were if they're airing, right?
Great. Well, make sure you guys check out the podcast. It's called Minor Adventures with Topher Grace. And where can we connect with you online?
I'm not too active on social media, but I guess follow Minor Adventures.
Minor Adventures?
I'll tell you when.
On Instagram or Twitter or wherever it's at?
Well, I'm so bad at this part.
Okay. But you're on Instagram, right?
Yeah, yes. Once I got married, I was like, I'm going to do 2 photos a week. That's a promise.
Okay, cool.
So you're reminding me I have to post a photo at some point this week. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And is there a website for you as well, or?
No, I'm sorry.
Just social media. Check out the podcast. Subscribe to it. My final question then is, what is your definition of greatness?
Give me other answers real quick.
I'll give you mine. Mm-hmm. It is to discover the unique talents and gifts within you and use those gifts to pursue your dreams, and in the pursuit of your dreams, make the maximum impact on people around you.
Yeah, that sounds pretty thought out. I don't think I'm going to have something that quick. Here's what I'll say. I was just in a conversation with about right now. So this is, at this point in my life, what I'm trying to do. This, 10 years ago, it was like trying to get a date with, whoever. But
get a girl to like you. That was
yeah, I know that's the motivator that brings you to. But I would say right now I'm trying to not focus on an idea of what I think I should be. Maybe that comes with being 40 or something. When you're younger, maybe you think I should be, wouldn't it be great if I was this, or just not having any, because I feel more confident than I did in my 20s, and I want to and the perfect example is the podcast or something strange like that I wouldn't have thought I was going to do. Just saying, hey, if I've identified these qualities you're talking about, that are good, I go, oh yeah, that might work, and just being confident, remaining really open.
Yeah.
Because you can't, if I said to my agent I want to do an action comedy, they'd go, okay, we'll ring you up when one of those comes together,
right.
But to just stay open and say, I'm going to work with the people, like the David Duke thing, like that.
Yeah.
3 days before that, I didn't know I was going to be doing that. So, I think I would just to remain open and confident what your things are.
Oh, that's cool. Topher, my man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Seriously.
man.